We've all been there. You're staring down a massive stack of ungraded essay tests and realize half the class missed the point entirely. Constructed response items like essays are incredibly useful for measuring high-level thinking, like synthesis and evaluation. But without careful, intentional engineering, they can quickly turn into a grading nightmare. Over the next few minutes, we're going to build a bulletproof essay prompt and a corresponding scoring key that will cut down on student confusion and save you hours of grading time. Before we begin drafting, you need to have a specific learning objective clearly defined. That clear target is the mandatory first step before transforming your idea into a precise assessment. Step 1 is to define the scope of your prompt. You need to decide if you are asking for a restricted response or an extended response. A restricted response limits the form and content of the student's answer. For instance, asking a health class to describe HIV transmission methods, like the facts listed on this poster, using no more than 25 words per method. An extended response, by contrast, gives students far more latitude. This is the choice when you want to measure complex synthesis and lengthy argumentation, like evaluating decades of government debt policy. Now that we have the scope, step 2 is to draft an explicit task. You can never assume students automatically know what your prompt is actually asking them to do. If you write something vague like, discuss democracy in Latin America, you'll get answers all over the map. Let's delete that. Instead, give them a highly specific task, such as, describe how the checks and balances provisions in the U.S. Constitution preserve democracy. Step 3 is setting boundaries. You need to add strict logistical instructions directly to the prompt itself. By explicitly stating that an essay is worth 20 points and should take about 15 minutes, you guide the student's effort. Without this, a student might spend half their test time on a minor question. While setting these boundaries, there is a common trap you must avoid: offering optional items. Allowing students to choose which essay to write means they are essentially taking entirely different tests. That makes it impossible to judge their performances on a common scale. Step 4 is to do a mental test drive. Squeeze yourself into the head of a typical student and mentally answer your own prompt to see if it actually leads to the targeted response. Taking the time to build a highly engineered, boundary-driven prompt guarantees that the resulting essay actually measures the learning objective you started with. With the prompt locked in, step 5 is choosing your scoring strategy. You need to map out your expectations before reading a single essay. You can choose holistic scoring, which provides a single score based on your overall impression of how well the student met preset criteria. Or you can choose an analytic approach. This is a fine-grained, point-by-point diagnostic allocation that assigns specific values to distinct parts of the answer. This chart shows an analytic scoring guide. It forces the grader to allocate 0, 1, or 2 points to distinct granular criteria like organization, word choice, and mechanics. Speaking of mechanics, you must decide prior to grading whether spelling and grammar will influence the final score. Making this rule early prevents messy handwriting from unconsciously lowering a student's grade on their factual knowledge. Step 6 is building the tentative scoring key. Your expected answers must be explicitly mapped out before you pick up the first test paper. Look at your prompt and break it down into specific expected subtasks. This chart displays a tentative scoring key. You assign point weights based on the cognitive difficulty of each subtask. Notice the uneven distribution. Simple citation is worth very little, while providing historical support carries a massive 40 points. We call this key tentative because you should adjust it as the first few real student papers reveal a flaw in your original expectations. Establishing a strict point structure beforehand limits subjective bias and ensures equitable, consistent grading across the entire class. You now have a specific, boundary-driven prompt and a fully weighted scoring key. You've eliminated the guesswork and the grading bias. When you sit down to grade, evaluate the student responses anonymously whenever possible. This adds another layer of protection against bias. Also, score all of the class responses to the first item before moving on to the next. This keeps your mind cleanly calibrated to a single rubric. With these tools built, you have a reliable way to accurately measure real-world skills, ready for your classroom today.